What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Sports Talk with Hawk podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by to take a listen in. If you're on Spotify, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're on YouTube, as always, thank you. Thank you for being here. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, the like button, the bell, and everything else. Thank you so much for stopping by. All right, so video or podcast number one is out in the draft pick value series. This is podcast number 2 in that series, and we're going to go 11 through 21. But actually, number 21 is the Carolina Panthers, and we're going to start with the big announcement from today. On Thursday, the Washington Commanders named Dan Quinn as the next head coach, and the coach that will be responsible for leading them in to what should be the relocation and rebranding of the organization. They're not going to be the Commanders. They're not going to have a big W on the side of their helmet. What they end up doing, I am not sure, but I know that's not going to be it. So, how do I put this? The difference in the head coaching positions when grading where coaches are going to go, we all look at a couple different things. Obviously, the skill that will 100% be there because they are under contract, the roster. We look at cap space, very big. Then we look at the draft capital. How can you build or solidify the foundation you have? We're going to do a comparison. $73.8 million. A roster that majorly is locked up for the next 3 to 4 years. Draft capital that is above 4,000 points, with 9 picks in this year's draft, compared to a roster that has a lot of bad contracts, back-ended contracts, about $25 million in cap space, a 972 point draft pick value, and only hold 4 picks. That is the difference between the Washington head coaching job and the Carolina Panther head coaching job. I really hope that David Tepper understands how badly that organization needs a reset. How much that this year they're going to suck pretty bad again. But at least they have their first round pick in 2025. The Carolina Panthers, Dave Canales, I feel, I said it when we went through it when he got hired. I feel sorry for him. The guy was emotional today in his press conference. There are 32 head coaching jobs. Most coaches didn't want this one. He got it. He is now one of 32 people that can call themselves the head coach of a National Football League team. He was emotional when talking about the journey to get there, the support he's had. I love the realness. You're a head coach. To be honest, I would have done the same thing. I don't know if it would have come out nearly as much in the press conference, but I absolutely guarantee you that sitting in my office as the head coach of the team, I would be sitting there and be overwhelmed by the fact that I got it. I made it. I'm here. I do not want to belittle him for taking the job. He's the head coach. But the job is going to belittle him. The job by itself is a very, very questionable job. Dan Morgan and Dave Canales will have to really figure out what they're going to be for 2024. And by that, I mean this. If you know you're just going to be bad, you do have 4 or 5 trade pieces on that team. You can trade, take a dead cap hit that's less than their regular salary, and get draft picks for 4 or 5 people. Frankie Louvu, the really good middle linebacker. Shaq Thompson, another good middle linebacker. Tyler Moton, the right tackle. Adam Thielen, the wide receiver. And then Brian Burns. They're probably going to franchise tag him and then look to trade him. And it will be a conditional pick. And that conditional pick is going to be if he plays and if he signs the extension. 5 players that can absolutely change the direction of this team. If you, in those 5 players, and we're going to see a couple of teams that have a lot of late picks. A lot of late picks. The quantity of picks right now is needed in Carolina. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You can turn 5 players into 7 picks. He turned 5 players with really expensive contracts into 7 players with not expensive contracts. Gave you 3 more years of low contract payments. If you hit on those players, you just saved the team. So what Carolina does is going to be fascinating. And it's going to play itself out through free agency. I believe pretty quickly, because they're going to want to get the teams before they spend the money on the free agents. Because then you can re-sign the players, do everything you need to do. So that's where I think everything is going to be currently. But here we go. We left off with the Vikings at number 11. We're going to open up at number 12, the Denver Broncos. The pick value that they hold is 1,510 points. They have the 12th pick, the 81st pick, the 122nd, the 144, the 146, the 210, and the 230. So they do have multiple rounds where they do not have a pick. But altogether, they still have 7 picks. So it's not bad for a team that could have 45 to $50 million in dead cap space. It's not great either, by any means. But at least they don't lose any of their draft picks. And they can still build somewhat through the draft. I like where the Broncos are sitting outside of the Russell Wilson saga. They do have trade pieces on offense that they can move. Judy, Sutton. I thought they should have traded Josie Jewell if they're not going to end up being able to re-sign him. I really thought they should have traded him. Not going to lie. The way the Broncos did the trade deadline, I thought was very lackluster. Definitely felt they could have done better, but we'll see if it works out. So number 12 is the Denver Broncos. Number 13, division rival Las Vegas Raiders. Now the Raiders have 1,929 draft capital points. It's 400 more points than the Broncos have. So it's really pretty hefty amount that you're gaining with this team. Antonio Pierce is set up for draft capital. Take a listen to this. He's got the 13th pick, the 44th pick, 77th, 113, 147, 209, 222, 225, 227. Pick after pick after pick after pick after pick. He's got them. He has got every single pick that he needs to make this work. Once again, 9 picks. 9 picks. The Raiders are set up to be able to improve through the draft pretty easily, pretty consistently here. I don't see a way where they don't improve through the draft. I really don't. They have they now have one of the best opportunities there is. I mean, Telesco, Pierce, Marvin Lewis will be joining the staff. This team, Tom Telesco hit on draft picks with the Chargers. He whiffed on some contracts, but they hit on draft picks. I don't know what their plan is for quarterback. They are a team to watch. They've got some draft capital to be able to trade. They've got 9 picks. They can trade 3 for 1 to move up into the top 10 if they need to. They absolutely could. So watch for the Raiders to really be able to potentially make a move, keep their late picks, find those gems, and continue to build a solid roster the way they need to. All right, number 14 is the New Orleans Saints. They have a pick value of 1,663. They have the number 14, the 45, the 149, the 167, 169, 174, and 200 picks. Here's the problem with them. Straight up honest about it. I don't like their coach. Their GM isn't bad. But I honestly believe that if this was a new coach, I'd say, okay. Maybe you can work with something here. Trade one of those mid-round fours, maybe a 5th, try to get to one of the teams that has 2 7ths, get some extra picks. If you're the Saints, the holes that you have to fill now, they're mounting. And they're mounting because it doesn't look great. Michael Thomas is it's a weird thing. He's a free agent, but he's a restricted free agent in football. We all expect he'll be a free agent because we don't believe the Saints are going to pick up his roster bonus, which will then allow him to sign with any other team, making him an unrestricted free agent. That's really where it's stemming from. But it's not bad. You're in the middle tier now. You're into the middle of the round. We started out, draft pick values are above 4,000 points. Now every single one of them is in the mid to high 15 to 1900s. It changes rather quickly. Here's the thing. The draft is so deep this year, these picks, I believe, are a little bit more valuable. And that is just my personal belief about it. All right, number 15, the Indianapolis Colts. We are basically straight across the board. We have all 7 picks. We have the 15, the 46, the 82, the 118, the 150, the 193, and the 32 for a draft pick value of 1,774. Respectable. You've got all your picks. Scouting department, do your job. GM, do his job. Coach, do his job. Make sure you hit on 5 of the 7. Bring in 2 starters, 3 reserves, and 2 practice squad, and let's keep this train rolling. That's really where you're at right now. You know, hit on your first and your second. Get your role players in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and the 6th and 7th. Get guys that, if injuries happen, they're going to have to step up. They'll get an opportunity. All right, next we have the Seahawks. $14.98 is their draft pick value. They have the 16, 76, 78, 119, 151, and 233. The Leonard Williams trade to the Giants actually is really a big deal here because they don't have that 2nd round pick. So they have 6 picks in this draft. It's not a bad thing. Mike McDonald is going to be able to work with it because you got your 1st round, you got 2 third rounds. So you're definitely going to be able to work with what you have. My guess is he probably goes offensive line, may go defensive line, linebacker if the offensive line just isn't there as far as pick worthiness of the talent. So I could see that happening. But I don't think it's a horrible thing. You just don't have your 2nd round pick. And that's because they traded for Leonard Williams. All right, number 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have 1,668 draft pick value, the 17th, 48th, 96, 115, 117, 152, 179, 211, and the 234. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars missing the playoffs may be one of those things that really helps them. And here's why I say that. Next week, teaser, here you go. This is what you can look forward to next week. Next week, we're going to go team by team and look at the opponents for 2024. We're going to go division by division, looking at the opponents in both the AFC and the NFC. We're going to do 2 divisions a night, both sides. So at one night, we're going to do AFC and the NFC South, AFC and the NFC West, etc. That is what we're going to do. Okay? So that is going to be next week's podcast lineup. And then we're going to do, I've got another one for you. We're going to do a Mount Rushmore podcast, and I'm excited to share this with you. It's actually a game that me and a couple of my friends have been playing. There's some interesting rules you can put into it. And I'm anxious to hear what your guys' Mount Rushmore will be within the guidelines that are set up. I'm excited to see it. So next week we're going to have a schedule breakdown for each team. Plus, we're going to have a Mount Rushmore podcast where I give you different ways to do your Mount Rushmore for a variety of sports. So hang on for that next week. But if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, You get knocked out. It's your own fault, honestly. You guys know this if you've listened to me. I have absolutely obliterated the franchise for the handling of the Trevor Lawrence injury. That is the reason they are not in the playoffs. That was the reason they weren't in the playoffs. It's that simple. But the Jacksonville Jaguars now have 9 picks in this draft. They have the ability to really. They got a lot of their starters, not going to lie, a lot of their starters are solid, but they really don't have depth, and they have the ability to get depth this year. I like where their picks fall. I especially like the 4th round 115, 117 back to back. You can really do a lot having those 2 picks. So I like that. So look out for the Jaguars. They got 1668, and it's in the middle rounds where you've got to be able to find the gem, or you can completely whiff. So I'm excited to see what they do with their capital. Then we have the Cincinnati Bengals at 18. They've got the 18th, 49, 80, 116, 148, 175, 196, 235, and 252. They're not set up bad either. You got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase for sure. You've got Joe Mixon. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are free agents. You're going to have to figure out what to do. Your secondary is questionable. Your defensive line, you could use one of the young defensive tackles in the 4th round for sure. But honestly, I think they go mostly weapons. I really think they go mostly weapons. They try to stay cheap at the positions they need to be. They want to be cheap at those positions. They're paying Burrow. They're paying Chase. You got to save money on some skill players. The draft is the way to do it. So I do like how the Bengals are set up. They're not going anywhere. I know it seems like every year everybody says it. Listen, Pittsburgh didn't deserve to be where they were at. Pittsburgh continually gets embarrassed. I do like the Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator hire. It is a sneaky good move. Sneaky good move. And I am excited for that. But at this point, I really do believe that Mike Tomlin's voice has just worn down. The effectiveness is not there. And it's not because he's a bad coach. It's because you can only say so many things in so many different ways. So the Bengals sitting there at 18. 19. This needs to terrify the NFL. And I say that because it is the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I am going to make a very strong prediction. The Rams are very good when it comes to the salary cap. They are great at not only manipulating, but navigating what the salary cap will be. They are cheap currently in a lot of areas. Here is what I think is going to happen. And this is a complete guess, but this is based off of their history. They will not pick in the 1st round. They will find the team that wants to move up or a team that wants to move back in to the 1st round and set themselves up with some more late round picks. This is what they have. The 19. 51, 83, 100, 153, 154, 177, 191, 212, 217, 218, 237. For those of you who were not counting, that is 12 draft picks for Sean McVay and Les Snead. 12! I mean, you're going to give the Rams 12 draft picks to basically take over and dominate the NFL. That's what's going to happen. That is exactly what's going to happen. This is a great spot for the Rams. They don't need to trade out of the first round. It's not that they need to trade out of the first round. It's that I think they will. This is where they pull a really sneaky move. Maybe let's just throw out the Tennessee Titans want to move back into the first round. They've got some pieces they can trade along with the draft pick. They've got some pieces that I don't know if they're going to be willing to keep moving forward. Mainly Caleb Farley, the corner from Virginia Tech. He's going into his 5th year. He's going into his 4th year. I doubt they pick up his 5th year option. It's way too expensive for his production. So they're going to want to trade him. Well, that means he's going to be cheap. He's like a $2.75 million cap hit or something like that. So you offer your 2nd round pick and Caleb Farley. Maybe you got to throw in one of your backup offensive linemen and trade it to the Rams for their pick. But the Rams now get a little bit more depth at corner, get a little bit more depth at the offensive line, and now have a early 2nd round pick. This has to terrify the NFL. All those GMs that are looking at this going, dang, they got 12 picks? The Rams, a team that is making the playoffs, and this year made the playoffs, with a team that shouldn't have made the playoffs. Youth, inexperience, rookies everywhere. Yeah, we went 10-7. Yeah, we took the Detroit Lions to the final minutes of the game. Yeah, we're coming back stronger. That's what they're saying yeah to now. 12 picks. Rams. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. 20. 20 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are basically straight across the board. They have all 7 of their picks for a total of 1,519 points. They have the 20, the 52, the 84, the 120, 121, 198, 238. Grand total of 7 picks. Mike Tomlin is not a bad drafter. He's not a bad developer. None of that comes into play. None of that is even questioned or implied. It's just that it seems to be getting old. That is it. Mike Tomlin does not have an extension yet. Mike McCarthy is not being extended. Instead of firing guys, you're seeing a couple of owners go, see how this year goes. You're coaching for your job. But I'm not going to fire you. I'm just going to let your contract run out. I like it. I can support it. I can see what they're doing. Makes a lot of sense to me. Really does. So the Steelers don't have bad pick value for where they're at, the 20th. No big deal. We already went over the Panthers, who do not have a first-round pick. The Browns also don't have a first-round pick, but we will go over their pick value in the final round video, which will be 22 through 32. So let's close it out with this, shall we? The coaching carousel is now done. The head coaching carousel is completed. Mike Macdonald is now the head coach of the Seahawks. Gerard Mayo is now the head coach of the Patriots. Raheem Morris is coaching the Falcons. Dan Quinn is now coaching the Commanders. Antonio Pierce gets his opportunity as a full-time head coach in Las Vegas. Jim Harbaugh gets Justin Herbert to be able to groom and hopefully bring to prominence in LA as the second football team. Dave Canales gets what looks to be a mountain of a task to get Carolina to be competitive with very low pick value, very low expectations, and not a ton when it comes to what they've got to be able to use. Some of the positions that kind of interesting, the Titans. Now, if you guys were listening last week, you know I don't understand this hire. I don't understand Brian Callahan. The hire definitely looks iffy at best. I myself wonder what the plan is, but he did hire his dad. Bill Callahan is now a position coach for the Tennessee Titans. Alex Van Pelt is the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. I like that move. Cliff Kingsbury is currently rumored to be the next offensive coordinator for the Raiders. Kellen Moore has a job again. Luke Getsy switches teams. Arthur Smith is in Pittsburgh. A really interesting one to watch, though, is the Commanders. The Commanders are so fascinating with $73 million in cap space. All that draft capital. Dan Quinn has the opportunity to set this up so well. Mr. Adam Peters has a great canvas to be able to start making the masterpiece of bringing back this franchise to a relevancy. Relevance matters. Are you relevant? Do people think you can win a game? Here's the problem with Pittsburgh. Nobody believes they can. They are. But then they get to the playoffs and nobody believes they even will be close. Because they're not relevant. Relevancy cannot be understated. The Detroit Lions threw it away when they fired Jim Caldwell after making the playoffs 2 of the 3 seasons. But you wanted to say at the time that group is no longer there. But at the time that group was like, well, we need to be able to do better. You just made the playoffs again. You were a team that was being watched. You got screwed by the refs in one of the games. You would have won. You would have won. Relevancy matters. The Washington franchise, wherever they move to, whatever name they switch to, whatever the rebrand is that will be coming with the move, whatever it is, it's very simply a setup for success if they hit these draft picks, nail a couple guys in free agency, set your team up for what they need. And that's all you can do. You got to be relevant. The Bears haven't been relevant in a very long time. They just haven't. The Panthers lost that Super Bowl, haven't been relevant since. Von Miller basically sucked all the relevance out of Carolina with one forced fumble. It is changing. Some owners are looking at it a little bit differently. Jeffrey Lowry in Philly is not one of them. He wants to win. Relevance for him is championship games, Final Four, being competitive, not getting blown out and embarrassed in quite a few of your games in the end. Not sure what they're going to do. The offseason questions have just started to get rolling. The hot stove has been turned on, but it's not ready yet. We got about 5-6 weeks until the league year opens. We're still closing out, filling out the staff, filling out the GM positions, filling out the position coaches, getting everybody in the building to get them ready to make our push in free agency. Got a lot of smart GMs. I am going to assume Adam Peters is going to succeed in Washington. Comes from the 49ers. Tom Telesco, we know, is good. He will succeed with the Raiders. Jim Harbaugh has more control for the next 3 years. He'll be good. He will be good. Plenty of teams to be excited about. There are a couple teams here. We went through them. Your draft picks are few. You better hit them. If you don't hit them, you don't really have the ability to improve your team in an easy and simplistic way. That's what it comes down to. All right, guys. There we go. 12 to 21. Tomorrow, 22 through 32. And we'll go over the rest of the teams. Next week, Mount Rushmore, schedule, look ahead. Got some banger games for next year. And I mean banger. Ring the gong and get everybody together. We got party games next year. Can't wait to share them with you. All right, guys, that is going to be it for me. Thank you so much for stopping by the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and ring the bell. Thank you so much. For Sports Talk with Hawk, until tomorrow, I'm Hawk, and I'm out.